last things you were saying was you can talk till you're blue in the face, but what your kids are going to pick up is how you behave.
Welcome to the Relational Parenting Podcast. I'm Jennifer Hayes, a parent coach and 20-year child care veteran. Each week, I sit down with my own father, Rick Hayes, and discuss the complicated issues that parents face today, as well as some of the oldest questions in the book. From the latest research and the framework of my relational parenting method, we offer thought-provoking solutions to your deepest parenting struggles. Added bonuses include intergenerational wounding discussions and guest childcare experts. We will also start taking your parenting questions in episode 5, so be sure to comment with your biggest questions or email me directly at jenny@jennyb.co. Let's get started. But micro traumas, I'm in my email right now, actually. When I get ideas randomly, like I'll be out running errands or going to bed or whatever, and I'll get this like blast of an idea.
Yep.
I will email it to myself so that I have to look at it the next day.
You want to capture it. Yep.
And so I'm in my saved folder of the things I've emailed to myself over the last year and it's called podcast topic ideas is
There
my
you go.
folder. And one of, I didn't see it yet, but I know that micro traumas has come up for me as something. I don't see it in here, but anyway, that there's PTSD from war, and then there's like what most people, the narrative around it is their kids, they'll get over it. And those moments where we diminish or dismiss a child's pain because we have 30 or 40 years of life experience and we have overcome tiny things or bigger things.
A buffer.
We say like kids are resilient. Like kids aren't born resilient. Resilience is learned. And if you don't learn resilience, then you learn suppression and you learn to push down what you feel or pretend like you aren't in pain when you are, or minimize your own pain because an adult brushed you off when you were 2 years old or
Coping
whatever. And not like
mechanisms.
once, like this is like repetitive, dismissal. But there's a term out there in the world. I didn't come up with micro traumas. And micro traumas does not mean insignificant. Micro just means not, it means quick, means in passing, not like an extended experience.
Like a micro expression in perception. And
so like PTSD is like, oh, I went to war for 9 months or 5 years or whatever, like an extent, like you don't go to war for like half a second and then leave. Whereas a dismissal can happen as quickly, like as literally a snap of your fingers. A dismissal, a diminishment, a like, oh, you're fine, get up, micro trauma. And micro traumas solidify when they are repeated. So that is the significance of micro traumas, is that it's not one big experience, it's a ton of small experiences that can have the exact same profound effect as one big experience. So some people can say like my childhood as an extended experience was traumatic because the repetitive behavior of my adults over time, it's not that they were mean to me every single second of every single day. It's that they repeatedly dismissed my reality, my feelings, my literal physical pain that I was expressing, all of my communication efforts. Like I was dismissed, I was not worthy, I was not given the time of day. And so to that person, my whole childhood was traumatic.
That's an interesting distinction, because with you could think of a sip of water as a micro drowning, and if a lot of water at once will kill you, but a little doesn't. But that's a bad analogy because I'm like a dismissal, or you can hurt somebody's feelings in an instant,
Mhm.
and it's not, and it doesn't just go away. It's the self-talk, it's the, it perpetuates itself in the head, like accumulation of plaque in a blood vessel, or it sticks, it
Yes, like
stays and
cholesterol. You don't have a heart
levels,
attack
or yeah,
out of nowhere one day, like, that shit's been building for 20 years.
yeah. Yeah, and the whole idea of dismissal is like, poof, it's done, and for one person, it's done and over, and the other
Mhm.
person, that may hurt their feelings for weeks or months, and then if another one happens within that, before they've healed from it or learned to deal with it, or whatever, depending on your age, then they accumulate before now you're not, now you never learn to deal with it. You're just like, oh my god, ow, that hurt.
Well,
Yeah,
and
that's
because it
an interesting
becomes
study.
in children, it becomes a learned pattern. And if you don't know anything else, you don't know any better, your adults are responsible for you, they're exposing you to what they're exposing you to, you don't know any better. You don't know that that's wrong, you don't know that that's hurtful. Like you just think, "Oh, there's something wrong with me."
Or I think, everybody's like that. I hear a lot of
Or that
people talking
everybody's
about,
like that, that's just
I thought
life.
everybody's relationship was like that, or that's how people are.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you learn with a limited experience, you learn the wrong lessons sometimes.
But if you're so like as an adult, someone can hurt my feelings and I know how to either stand up to them or say, "Hey, I didn't like that. I don't like being treated like that." And then they get to respond either with, "I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you,"
Right.
or "fuck you," or like however their whatever their response is their
Let's get some
responsibility.
closure on that, yeah.
But then I get to set a boundary. So if it's a close friend and it's an apology response, or a civil conversation where we talk through something, whatever, great. We all move on and with our lives. But if it's a not close friend, or someone who's you're not really invested in, you say, "Hey, like that hurt my feelings. I don't appreciate being talked to like that, or I don't appreciate being spoken to that way, treated that way, whatever." They get to they get to choose how they respond. And if their response is to further that hurt or dismiss me again or whatever, then I get to be like, all right, well, this is not no longer a person I'm going to interact with.
Wow, okay, yeah.
Um, but as a child, you don't have that option. There's
You
the
don't have an
power
option. No.
dynamic that I
Yeah,
always talk about, because children and adults, there's a huge power difference. And so there is a
yeah.
responsibility of adults to act right, get your shit together so that you are not pummeling children, helpless fucking creatures who can't do anything about it and don't know any better yet, to not be a fucking asshole and
Yeah,
teach them these
yeah.
things so that they go on to repeat the same cycles.
And to head off, I mean, if you continue it, eventually kids get older, hopefully, to get to the point where they do have options. Little kids don't have any options for dealing with people who are abusing them. I think that might be a good criteria for defining an adult, is when you finally stand up and say, I'm not putting up with this anymore. And by God, I got friends whose couches I can crash on, or whatever. And then
Yeah.
your rebellious teen takes off, and you're mystified. Yeah, figure out if your kids
Or
are
they're just a
disappearing.
rebellious teen, or they're just an asshole, or they don't, yeah, like
Yeah,
the kid gets
and
blamed
yeah,
for the
yeah,
for the behavior that
yeah,
they've been taught or forced into. And I'm not saying
yeah.
that children and teens don't have accountability and responsibility, but they are still children, and what they are taught is what they're going to do, what they're going to display.
That's right.
So there's
That's
like,
right. What they've
you
been
as a
modeled.
parent are responsible for a large amount of your child's reactions. I'm not even going to say actions or
I hope.
behavior, but the way that your child, I need to pause and back up, because
Mhm.
children you can't control, but you can
Yeah, you're going to get
teach.
into a nature nurture thing
Yeah.
there. Yeah,
You
yeah,
can't. Children come out with personalities. Children are not blank slates. Children are not there for you to mold into whatever you want to mold them into. Like, children come out with a personality and a purpose and gifts and weaknesses and whatever, and whatever your belief system is for how that develops and how that comes through is yours. But they are not blank slates. They come out with specific pieces of themselves already in place. And then the way that that is nurtured is what gets expressed. And so, yes, they come out nature. They come out a certain way, and you might have a highly sensitive child. You might have a highly confrontational child. You might have a very independent, stubborn child. Like, you might
Personality
have a
built
kid
in.
that you don't know necessarily how to communicate with well, or how to explain things to well, or whatever. But your job as the adult who has had many, many years of learning how to adapt to different people and different personalities and hone your communication skills and
Hopefully.
know yourself well enough to and be yeah, you are the
Flexible,
adapter.
resilient.
You
Yeah.
are the adaptable
Mhm.
person in the room. When
Mhm.
your child has needs, you have to learn how to speak their language. You have to
Mhm.
learn how to meet their needs. You have to learn, and you might have 3 kids with 3 completely different personalities, 3 completely different sets of needs, 3 completely different love languages, 3 completely different communication styles.
Yeah.
But your job as the parent, as the observer, as the guide is to hone in, know your children, pay attention, and figure out what works and figure out what doesn't. And then also be a role model yourself for being a calm, cool, collected, kind human. If you lie, your kids are going to lie. If you punish
Yeah.
them when they tell you the truth, they're going to fucking lie. So
That's
you're
the
either
hard part.
showing them the wrong behavior, or
Yeah.
you are causing the wrong behavior because of the way that you respond.
Yeah.
Like, kids are going to make mistakes. Period. Accept it.
Yeah.
Move on. Find a way to
Yeah.
teach them better without
That's
punishing
learning.
them for
Yeah.
being honest with you. Yeah. Just
Yeah,
ranting.
no,
Wow.
there's all kinds of stuff in there. We're a product of our genetics. What we come out of the womb with is a product of genetics, and it's not just you and your parents. You may have a kid that has a
Mhm.
lot of the traits of someone 2 or 3 or 4 or however, it's a random collection of however many thousands of
Yeah.
generations come
Ancestral
before, and so you
trauma
may get
is
something
a real
you're
fucking
not.
thing.
Yeah, and they're gonna be wired away. You can be predisposed to depression. You can be genetically
Mhm.
predisposed to things that so you may get a bag you don't know how to deal with, and you can talk till you're blue in the face. One of the last things you were saying was you can talk till you're blue in the face, but what your kids are gonna pick up is, um, how you behave.
Yeah.
That's more mostly you can say don't lie, don't lie, don't lie, but if your kids catch you lying a couple of times, that's takes a lot of talking to undo a witnessed act.
Yeah.
I also saw a TED talk not too long ago where somebody was making the case that parents have almost no influence on their children. I thought I have to go back and rewatch it. I'll send you a link to it. And she
That's
said
not
no,
even
the
scientific.
I know, but
Like, there's
but
literally
it's an interesting argument where the kids are in the world, things are going to happen to them. You're there to guide them. How do I process all this stuff going on
well,
in
yeah,
my
that I
world?
agree with.
Right, but I think she was kind of coming from a place of, yeah, home is well regulated and well educated, and everybody's trying to become enlightened, and I think it was kind of in an ideal, she was talking about kind of an idealist environment. I'll send you the link if you get a chance, take a look at it.
It sounds like maybe the argument was not that you as a parent have no influence on your child, but rather
It
that
wasn't, no, yeah,
we are not here, like what I just said, we are not here to
yeah,
mold them into anything. They
yeah,
already are something.
yeah,
Our job is to guide them, not to turn them into anything, but to make them but to teach them how to be resilient to the difficulties of physical reality, to
show them the
teach
ropes.
them emotional intelligence and how to deal with the thoughts in your head and
Yeah.
how to overcome and how to get, like our last episode, how to get out of your comfort zone and what, the importance of character traits
Yeah.
and, muscle building and integrating like the mind, body, and spirit. Like you're born into a world as someone,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? But you don't have any skills to survive. So
Yeah.
I come here with a personality and gifts and goal, but I don't know how to find food. I don't know
No
how to
skills. That's an
change my
interesting
diaper.
model.
I don't know how to
Yeah.
keep going when times get hard, because all my brain does is shut down and go like hide, run, like get away
Yep.
because something
Yep.
is scary. Like
Yep. Like a
there's
rabbit.
we're here to teach and to be guides. We are not here to mold and force and coerce and make them do things or be things or whatever. And there's a woman on who does TikTok videos that I think is hilarious. And she plays two sides of a role playing scenario where she plays herself, the mom,
Oh,
and then
shoot.
she
Yeah.
plays a stranger or random person who makes
Those
comments
would
out
be
in
fun to
public.
do. Yeah.
And one of my favorite ones is, "Oh, I can't believe you let them do that in public." And it pans and it switches over to her as the mom, and she goes, "I'm I'm sorry. Did you say let them?" Like as if I have any control over what they choose to do in any given moment. Like that's where it's like stop. The goal of parenthood isn't to control your children.
Yeah.
That's not the point. And you can't. That's what she was trying to say. I don't know. I haven't watched it.
We should
You
put some links
cannot
like that in here.
control every little thing in your life, and you can't control children. Children
Yeah.
are free, autonomous creatures that are they come out just trying to figure out how to survive.
Yeah.
Our job is to teach
Yeah.
them how to survive with a little grace and get along with people and live in a community. But when they're 3, they don't give a fuck about the community. They're just like, "What's going on? And I need a snack. And why do I feel
I'm
like
hungry.
this?"
My hind hurts. Yeah.
Quit having unrealistic expectations and quit expecting yourself to be in control of everything. You're
Yeah.
not.
Control the
You're
problem.
not in control of everything. Nobody is. The only thing we are in control of is ourselves and our choices that we make. That's it.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the only thing you can control in life.
Yeah. Yeah. The only time you're in control is when you have secure hold of their ears or maybe a finger.
Well, sure. Okay. Yeah.
Come
Someone
here
could come in and
now.
make the argument that you can control your children, but only until they're a certain size and a certain age. And then you've failed to
Exactly.
teach them anything about controlling themselves. And then they enter a world where they either beat the shit out of you back when they're bigger than you. And then
Yeah.
they go out into the world with no self-control, no
Yeah.
self-accountability, because you've just been
Yeah.
beating them their whole lives or grabbing them by
That's
the
right.
ears or whatever, verbally,
Yeah.
physically, however you want to
That's
write
right.
it.
You're not
You
fostering
controlling them,
integrity, self-control.
yeah,
Yeah.
they don't learn anything from that.
Don't
That will
lie
not serve
because
them.
it doesn't serve you. Yeah.
It will not serve them for any part of their life. You controlling them does nothing.
It's a complicated
Yeah.
world out there.
We
Then there's
jumped.
people
We
who
just
do lie because it does. Well, that's right. We have no trouble winging it here. I don't know. We're going to have to start watching, making sure that we are interesting to other people other than ourselves,
right.
because we don't have any trouble. We don't have any trouble batting ideas around.
Well, so we started. Oddly enough, I have 2 words written down on my. You can't even see them. That's how
Micro trauma. Oh, you're doing
lying.
you're doing a clipboard thing too. Cool.
Yeah, I finally had to. I used to just have a piece of paper on a little thing right here that I would kind of, and then I was trying to be a little more poised and I don't know, whatever. But then I was like, I want to write things down and I just need to. So
yeah, I have to take notes while eventually we're going to need teleprompters, I think.
But lying and well, but we don't. I mean, it's not scripted, so we don't need teleprompters.
Just little blurbs and stuff that you can just read.
But I wrote down lying and micro traumas because of what you and I were talking about, relationships and stuff before I hit record. And is Judy?
Judy, hi. Say hi, Judy.
Hi, Judy.
Hi.
Say it real loud.
Hi, Judy.
You know that the headphones aren't.
I know.
Oh, okay.
Well, if you said it loud enough, they'd be a speaker. But...
Oh, if I said it loud enough, yeah. But so I just want to like take a minute and pause and back up because we just dove in and I just like went on a rant.
Yep.
But lying, and then we got into micro traumas. I had a couple of. We got into micro traumas because we were talking about adult relationships. So we were talking about conflict inside of adult relationships and how sometimes when we're having a conflict with someone standing in front of us, sometimes the conflict isn't about that person. It's about that person said something that reminded us of something that someone else said in our past, whether it was
behind the veil,
2 years ago or 40 years ago, that hurt me deeply. And you touched a wound, right? We call that triggered. You triggered me.
Wound, triggered. And this is how I've learned, and this is how I still respond to that because that's what I learned to do when I.
Well, because I'm still hurt because that wound, still exists, and so now I'm an adult. I'm autonomous. I am in control of myself. But now someone who did that to me when I was helpless. Right. I'm remembering being helpless in that moment. And now I'm standing here talking to someone that I know and trust who has triggered that helpless feeling inside of me. And now I'm in fight or flight mode again. And now I'm responding, whether their intention was to be hurtful or not, it hurt me. And now I get to choose my reaction. But if you launch into fight or flight mode, you haven't done any work around getting triggered, around emotional intelligence, around responding versus reacting, like taking a deep breath, regulating yourself, responding to something. Your reaction can turn into a conflict. It can turn into like a, well, fuck you, use like defensiveness, or fuck you, I'm out of here, done with this conversation, whatever it might be. Or especially if it's someone you care about, you want to maintain a relationship with, it can be, when you say that, I feel blah, blah, blah.
I want to smash
hurt.
you.
I feel, no, that's not a feeling. So that's the other key is that you can't threaten or accuse.
Okay. Yeah. You don't.
No.
Yeah.
Threats and accusations are useless. That's only going to put them, that's still a retaliation that's going to put them on the defense of like, whoa.
Yeah.
But if someone says something to hurt you and it's not obvious they meant like people say things all the time.
It was intentional. Yeah.
Yeah. No one, like, it's not obvious that they're like, I'm not talking about like a heated whatever, like in passing, your significant other says something to you in the kitchen and it just hits you the wrong way. Instead of turning around and sniping back at them when they're probably just like not even thinking about what they said in that way.
Yeah.
Being like, just noticing that you're feeling that way and being like, okay, that didn't feel good. I should let them know that didn't feel good. Hey, when you said that, I felt like this.
That's a
and
soft
then they
spot.
get to be like, oh, like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hurt you. Like, I just meant blah, blah, blah. 99% of the time.
And don't be dismissive. It's like everybody. So it's good if everybody recognizes that everybody has micro traumas and little things that'll trigger them and don't react initially to things. I'm getting a picture of that parent adult child thing, which I know is debunked, but still, you don't react from your child. Don't react from your past.
Yeah, from the wounded.
Everybody needs to be regulated most of the time. That will improve communication.
Self-sovereignty
Ooh.
is a word that just popped up for me and has been popping up for me the last few days. And maybe this is our real sovereign.
Self-sovereignty, integrity. There was a word popped into my head about. We've talked before about motivation coming from, and goes back to the TED Talk lady about, teaching kids and teaching ourselves to come from internal, not external
Intrinsic
motivations.
motivation
Intrinsic.
means it comes from you, you're inside of you, your values, your choices, your beliefs, versus someone outside of you constantly telling you what to do and that this is right and this is wrong.
Intrinsic is it's part of me. Without it, I wouldn't be exactly me anymore. I'd be something a little different.
Right. So self-sovereignty comes into play here when you're in any relationship of any kind, but we happen to be talking about significant others, and the way that you respond when you get triggered, when someone says something that hurts you in any way, for any reason, in any situation, you get to choose how you respond.
Yeah.
And you don't know if they meant it like that. You don't know if they didn't mean it like that. You don't know anything about their intention. Like, anything you think about them is a story you are writing in your head, because you don't know.
That's right.
And all you have control over is noticing, ouch, that hurt. And now I get to tell that person that hurt me. And I don't have control over how they respond to that. I don't have control whether or not they apologize. I don't have control whether or not they explain themselves. I don't have control over knowing if they meant it to be hurtful or not. I don't have control over whether they lie. I don't have control of, I don't have control over anything anyone else does.
We don't have control,
but
period.
I chose to communicate clearly and well and kindly. And that is all I can do in any situation. Is I am in control of me. I noticed that hurt me. I don't need to spiral into a pit of shame or guilt or anger because of that. But all I'm in control of is my behavior and my choices.
That's why when you run into somebody, or if you get in a situation where someone is out of control, right? It's where the calm down, if you're out of control, then there's not much point in dealing with you anymore.
Yeah.
Or recognizing yourself about to go out of control is probably the real valuable skill. Going, I'm out of my mind. I'm just yelling and screaming, or so hurt I can't do anything. Then it's time to go do something else. And
well, then we take time out,
some energy, and come back to this.
We don't, and people think of timeouts being like this childhood punishment, which, first of all, they don't work either. Stop doing that, everybody. Second of all,
doesn't work for who? Sometimes it gives parents a relief.
Okay, I mean like a traditional timeout where you have to go sit in the corner, like you're bad, go stand in the corner, face the wall, don't speak, don't move.
Think about what you did. Yeah.
But a healthy timeout is for everyone. Okay, we need a break, but not making it about the child being wrong or your partner being wrong or you being wrong. Like, not making it about anybody being wrong and not making it about punishment. It's simply a fact of reality that we are both not in control of ourselves. We are sniping, we are throwing accusations, we are being mean and hurtful to each other, and we feel justified in it. And that is the moment when you can go, whoa.
Yeah.
Okay. This is not a productive conversation anymore. The only thing happening here is we are trading hurt and seeing who can hurt each other or who can come out on top. Right. So this is the moment where we need a break. We both need to pick something to go do and say, we'll come back to this in 20 minutes, or we'll come back to this in 3 days, or depending on the escalation and your situation and all the things, like taking a break That's what I call it when I'm taking care of kids. I just don't use the word timeout because I had to retrain my brain from when I
Euphemisms.
used to use timeouts all the time as punishment
Yeah, yeah.
and or as a break for me.
That's right.
Get away from
That's
me.
that's the point I was making is I need you to go stand over there before I squish you
Yes,
because
but
I need to get
that's
myself regulated.
yes, but that's on you. You need the timeout.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
telling a child, "Go over there away from me," is blaming them for how you feel and what you need. So it's not a timeout for the kid. It's not go stand over there till I can collect myself. It's mommy is really frustrated. Mommy is not in control of her emotions right now. And I'm feeling really unkind. So I don't want to say
Ooh,
anything to you that I don't mean. And I'm going to go take a break for 5 minutes. What do you want to do while I go take a break?
that's good teaching for a child
So
that's really
you leave the
vulnerable.
room.
That's
You
more
leave
of
the room.
That's good for a grown-up. There's other grown-ups. I mean, that's kind of what a pathology is, isn't it? There are I can imagine there are people who would use that against you to come in and, another grown-up that doesn't have your best interests at heart. And when you reveal that stuff in a moment of weakness, "Hey, I'm on the brink here. Take a break." Some will attack you at that point, as opposed to now with a
Well,
child,
then don't fuck
that
with those
sounds like a really
people.
good you're not always in control of that if it's your boss or spouse or, if it's someone you can't get away with. But with a kid, that's a real good, and with another regulated adult, that's all that would be really good. I'm just imagining I'm the velociraptor. I'm testing all the border cases. My own process, somebody will say something, when a thought comes up, and then I take that and I jigsaw that around in my experience and going, yeah, 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 that fits, or no, that doesn't fit. And that was just
Yeah.
I kind of
Well,
got
and there's
off on,
no one
well, it fits here,
truth.
but it doesn't fit here.
There's no I'm gonna take that back. There's rarely one truth that fits every
Every
situation in
situation.
life.
That's right. That's the regulate.
But
That's
we're
why
not
we have to
talking about every
regulate.
situation. We're talking about what kind of home are you
Right.
creating and what are the life
Right.
skills that children need to learn.
Right.
Navigating the workplace in their 40s and 50s is a whole different game.
It's a whole
We're
different
talking
game.
about the
We're doing the
importance,
pregame. We're doing the
yeah, the
pregame so that they
importance
can.
of building their foundation of relational skills, healthy emotional and mental skills, so that when they do meet the big bad boss, they can work through it, overcome it, or leave if it's toxic. Like
Yeah.
there are
And pushing
options
that.
instead of I'm wrong, I'm bad, I'm shitty, I'm the like blaming themselves for everything that happens to them because other people and other situations occur whether we're there or not. It's not our fault. Like I said, the only responsibility we have is self sovereignty. How
Right.
are you showing up? How are
Exactly.
you behaving? What choices are you making? And so everyone else
Exactly.
gets to make their choices and you get to make yours. And
Yep.
because your boss is shitty and attacking you doesn't necessarily mean that you deserve it and you're a shitty person. It means,
That's
in
right.
fact, rarely does it mean that. It means your boss is having a bad day or your boss is getting a divorce or your boss had a fight
Yeah.
or whatever and they're taking it out on you.
Somehow we've
You are
triggered
never
an old experience of
responsible.
theirs. Yeah,
You are never responsible for someone else's behavior.
there you go. That's a good thing. And that's what we're teaching our kids. That's what you want to teach your kids is to recognize those things when they see them.
Well, and so often kids are blamed for how their parents are feeling. You're pissing me off, go to your room. You are disrespecting me, go to your room. You like it's the kids get
Hmm.
blamed
Yeah,
for parents' behaviors, feelings, actions. And then kids go out into the world and build friendships based on trauma responses and become caretakers of everyone except for themselves.
yeah.
And yeah, it's just a whole cycle,
That's e-
man.
that's exactly the mechanism is unresolved trauma in our past. A kid will pick on that. A kid will do something, and the parent will react. We will react to something in our past the kid has reminded us of, right? And so you impose that on the kid. And so that's exactly why the Civil War is not over, because of unresolved stuff we're carrying around, that stuff in our parents' backyards are in our front yards and end up in our
What's
kids'
in the
front
parent's
yard.
basement is in the child's
Basement,
front yard.
That's it. And so that's how that stuff gets perpetuated. And so, like we've been saying, dealing with some of your own stuff and dealing with your kids, the way I've learned to look at it is dealing with your kids most people like and want to take care of and make their kids successful, impart as much of their good. Everybody thinks they're raising their kids the way kids ought to be raised,
Yeah.
but that's an
what makes this so hard. So everybody's like,
yeah,
well, we're raising our kids this way. And it's like,
that's right. And this is the right way, by the way. And so but it's an opportunity when your kids do something that does trigger you. That's a real chance for you to grow too. Back to something you were saying before is don't think you know it all. Take that as an opportunity. Why did that upset me? And do a little growth of your own while you're parenting.
Well, and everything you put out into the world comes back to you. And I don't mean that in this black and white way of like good people get good things and bad people get bad things. Like bad things happen to good people, good things happen to bad people, whatever. Good and bad, black and white doesn't exist. It's not real. What that means to me is you put out into the world the choices and behaviors and energy that you would want to receive yourself. And when you live your life that way, it doesn't matter if someone comes into your periphery and is a shit person to you or does something to try to manipulate you or, whatever. We're all going to meet bad situations. People are going to die that we love. We're all going to have struggle and hardship. What that means is that I am choosing who I'm going to be in this lifetime. I'm choosing whether or not I'm going to contribute to the healing and betterment and higher consciousness and not just living in these base instincts of survival and fear and hoarding everything that I can and stealing from anyone that I need to steal from, and these survival instincts that hurt others, right?
Yep.
So we're living our life in a way that does no harm to others. And oh my God, the other place that I was going with this is whatever your belief system is, this is mine. And it's not just this random belief. I have witnessed it. I've witnessed it for myself.
Yep. Like experience. This is my experience.
Yeah. So, and I've witnessed it for other people, but children and the world around you everything is a mirror. Everything in the world is connected. Your action causes a reaction in the world in some way. Everyone else's actions cause reactions. So you can walk around in your life and ignore everything that the world is reflecting back to you, or you can walk around and observe what's being reflected back to you and go, oh, maybe that's coming to me because that's what I'm putting out.
And learn from it. Yeah.
Maybe someone is reacting to me that way because that's how I treated them. Maybe, and that doesn't make them your responsibility. It's a tool for you, for self-reflection, for growth, for your own healing. And so our children are the same. Like I firmly believe that our children choose us because we have something to offer them in their journey and their growth. And I believe that they choose us because they are a soul who can help us with whatever we have yet to unearth, uncover, heal, and grow through. And so I watch parents dig into their basement
Yeah.
when their child is like in their face
Challenging. Yeah.
this thing that triggers the fuck out of them, and I don't know what to do with them, and it's like a whole new language that I'm having to learn and blah blah blah. Like rarely do people just get a kid who is their best friend and they have everything in common with. And sometimes it's like one kid is your bestie and your other kid is your fucking guru who's going to
Is
show you
your
all
that's
of
right.
the holes
Your
that you
difficult
need to
child.
fill.
Yep. Ooh, I want to be that one. Yeah.
And
That's way more fun, being the
and
bad guy.
the last, I joke sometimes, but the last nanny, the last family that I took care of was a little boy and a little girl, and they were a little over a year apart. And by the time I'd worked there for about a year, I was ingrained, I was part of the family, I was
Yeah.
in love with the kids and all the
All
things that
attached. Yeah.
I told the mom I'd had a really rough like week. And the boy who was older, he was 3 at the time, he was in that like language development. He was in his self-sovereignty phase of like, I'm not going to do anything that anybody tells me because I realize that I don't have to.
I've discovered competence and independence. Yeah.
Yeah. I've discovered the word no. Yeah. And as someone who I see myself as experienced, I see myself as learned, I see myself as educated, and I know how to deal with kids, and there's almost no situation that you could plop me into that I could not handle when it comes to children. And this little boy took that ego and went
Yeah.
it was
So
like,
try
watch
this
bitch.
Try this one on. Yeah.
And at the end of that week, the mom and I, were it was a very friendly boss employee relationship. We would dissect things about the kids and talk and have conversations and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I sat down, and it was like the end of the day, or the kids were going to bed or something. I don't know. And I just like put my head in my hands and I was just like, you know what I've realized? I was like, the little girl, I said her name. I was like, she's like my little best friend. She and I can go to the coffee shop, to the museum, and it's like hopping around town with my teeny tiny bestie. And we just, as long as she like gets a snack every few hours, she is just good to go. She just wants to have fun and explore the world, and like, let's do it.
Yeah.
But you bring little boy's name. I was like, and I love them equally. I was like, but he is like my little guru. And every time I think I have a handle on things, he comes in and is like, how about this? Like, he comes in and he wrecks my world of what I think I'm like capable of, and not in like a destructive way, but in like a like,
he's
I
testing.
learn. Well, I told her, I was like, I have learned more from him in a year than I think I've learned in the 19 previous taking care of children. I've learned more about me, about children, about needs, about shifting my language and my behavior and my responses. I have learned more from him in a year because of how challenging he has been. I was like, little girl, she's my buddy. She is my buddy. I love her. We love hanging out together. I was like, and he is like that coach in high school that you hate, but you would follow to the grave because they make you better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's such a crazy feeling to feel that way about a 3-year-old.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the thing is our experiences are unique to us just because just because I bring my experience. I'm getting older in the workplace, and I'm very careful not to adopt a I know it all kind of attitude because
Mhm.
yeah, I've had my experience and I've done some things, but it's the world is a moving stream and the stream is different now, and so you gotta keep that new mind thing going
Yes.
because it's all
Learn
it's
I
all
forgot
new.
that that's what that means, learner's
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah, yeah, beginner's mind, new mind, Zen thing, and, it's important, I think, I guess that makes it a value judgment, to be aware of those kinds of things, that your experience is not everyone's experience, and that's what it doesn't matter whether the person, the being in front of you is 3 or 70,
Mhm.
they may have something to show you that's outside of
Everyone
your
has
experience.
something to offer.
Yeah, and
Everyone.
so come at it with the attitude of, "Lay it on me, baby, I'm ready to learn." That's where, like, I imagine
Mhm.
leadership in the Army, there are leaders, coaches, whatever, that you want to be around because if you're open to learning, if you're not pretty sure, I guess that maybe that's a functional definition of closed-mindedness.
Mhm.
If you are aware you don't know everything, is that
Mhm.
self-awareness? Is that I don't know what that I'll have to read up on that.
There's
But
ego, there's
all
killing
kinds
the
of things in
ego is
there.
a big part of adulthood, is a big part of healing. If you actually want to grow in life, you've really got to get a handle on your
So,
ego.
get a handle on ego, that makes sense. Well, teaching
Yeah.
guys to code, that was always like, "We're gonna have code reviews, get your ego out of your code, do some work, and we will all sit around and we will learn from one another." And boy, I ran into a lot of people last team I was on, first time I started up code reviews, nobody showed up to the first one. Everybody was scared to death to have anybody else review their code. They'd never been through a
Mm.
code review before. And it's like, no, 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 we're all, I was like, well, I'm going to do mine first. I'm going to show you some code I'm working on. And you guys it'll take 50 meetings, but we will all come to a consensus on best ways to do things with this team. We're not gonna change the
That
world,
that
you
right
know.
there. I want to capture that. That example you just gave in an adult business environment where as
Yeah,
a well, that is a leadership skill.
that's good.
I'll
That's
go
being a leader.
first.
Yeah,
Let me
yeah.
show you
Here's
where
mine.
I've my weaknesses, where I
Here,
fuck up, where I
yep,
fail.
yep. Here's what I was
Like,
trying to do. What do
I'll
you
go
think?
first.
Yeah,
Like, being a leader is not standing in the White House and commanding an army to go do things that you yourself would never do.
yeah.
Being a leader is, I'll go first.
Not a buddy in the army.
Watch me fuck it up. Watch me not be perfect. And this is where this is a huge parenting philosophy that I teach people is like, if you are the parent and you expect your child to behave a certain way, to develop a certain skill, to do something in a certain way, and you yourself are not doing it that way, or
Yeah,
you yourself are not leading the path, going first,
that's right.
or showing your kids that failure is okay or that no one is perfect, everybody makes mistakes. If you are not leading with
Action.
with that humbleness of what being a
Yeah.
human is,
Servant leader. Yeah,
if you just fucking pound into your kids that you need to be perfect and you need to do everything right and blah blah, blah, like, oh my god, you're gonna fuck up your kids so much. But you are not being a leader, you're being a dictator. And
or a
nobody
manager.
respects dictators. There is only fear.
Yeah,
And when they
yeah,
get older, your kids aren't going to want to talk to you. Your kids aren't going to trust you with anything. They're not going to talk to you about anything.
yeah,
And you're going to be like, why? What did I do? Why do you treat me like this? And guilt
yeah,
trip them. And it's your fucking
yeah,
fault. And
yeah.
man, I am on one today. But that example is so important to be like, it might take 50 meetings, you guys. I'm going to go first. We're going to talk this out. We are a team, and together we're going to figure this out. And
We're going to figure out the best way to do things.
that is the family dynamic that creates happy, resilient, honest, capable human beings. If you and your parenting partner or whatever family dynamic you have created with the children that are there, if you are not a team where you appreciate everyone's strengths
Exactly.
and give grace to everyone's weaknesses and come together and bolster each other and make team decisions and talk with your kids like together as a team, as respected parts of the team, not just we're the parents and this is how it's going to be.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, I'm not big on
every once in a while
parenting.
Yeah, every once in a while there has to be a like final say. Who's got the final say? Yes, you, the parent, know what is safe, what is okay,
I'm the tiebreaker,
etc.
I'm the mom or the dad.
You have the judgment and the experience to be the final say in certain situations. But for the most part, if you want to have a healthy relationships, lifelong bonds, like healthy kids who can navigate the world on their own eventually and overcome difficult things and have a successful, enjoyable life, you need to create a team environment where everyone is respected, where everyone's opinion is taken into account. That doesn't mean they're going to always get what they want. No one on any team always gets what they want. There's give and take.
Well, it's teaching that there is, it works in relationships too. It's, in my view, it's teaching that, an Einstein quote comes to mind. Service to something bigger than yourself generally makes people happier than me all the time. Which leads to lying to get your way, to avoid consequences and stuff. But picking something like, doing something, take one for the team, being part of a team, this is what the team needs to do as opposed to what I would rather go do. I think those are all good, I'm going to say instincts. Those are all good feelings. What's the word I'm looking for? To instill in kids, because it makes them more productive members of the tribe. What's good for the tribe is good for everybody in the tribe, as a rule. And so, it's a social skill. I don't know. I had a buddy in the Army, I was going to say, that distinguished those kind of leaders as being difference between leaders and managers. Some people run groups and they're just managers. They're checking boxes and they're managing things. And then there's leaders who jump out and do it. They get in the mud and they help push the truck. They're not just sitting there going, hey, we need another one over here. From afar.
They're not just delegating and pointing and instructing. They're in there doing it. And maybe they're like, hey, you're really good at this. Why don't you do that? Hey, you're really good at this. Why don't you do that? And I'm going to be here doing this.
Right. And if somebody has a suggestion, it's about, you're right. Bill's bigger. Let's put, you negotiate, and I guess there is some management involved in leadership, but
there is. But if you're not in there getting your hands dirty too, if you're not doing it first, if it's this scary thing, then who are you to spout off at other people? You can't teach people something you've never done. You can't claim
authority.
Claim authority.
Leadership.
Thank you. You can't claim authority over something you've never done yourself. I can't sit here and speak about these things if I hadn't spent the last 20 years of my life doing them, learning. Like, I didn't come out of the womb knowing all of this. It took a lifetime, right? If not at least 20 years of my career to learn these things. I went to healing. I went to retreats. I hired coaches. I got a therapist. I've been doing the work, and I started as an authoritarian teenager in charge of children, and I could make kids, I could coerce, I could instruct, I could put on my mean voice and get kids to do what they needed to do and fall in
Yeah.
line. I
Yeah.
could do that. And I
Yeah.
felt successful. And I was like,
Yeah.
I'm good with kids. Kids trust me. And I can, when it gets hard, I can make things happen that need to happen.
Yeah.
And I felt virtuous in that. And now, fast forward, I'm like, I look back at that version of myself and I look at what the science is saying now and the way that I've shifted, the way that I approach hard moments with children and how I choose to connect rather than direct and demand obedience. And when
Mhm.
you respect a child and when you're transparent about your own feelings with a child, it gives them the safety to then not be angry and screaming and battering at you. They calm down too, and then you can have a civil conversation and actually work through something so that that thing doesn't just keep happening and you
Mhm.
just stay in the same battle for 20 years with your kid.
Mhm.
Like, if that evolution had not occurred,
That's the word. Yeah.
I could not sit here and spout this bullshit to you guys. Like, who would I be to? It's just, yeah. Leaders are doers.
And that's
The
really what
end.
we're talking about here is nobody, just like nobody comes out of the womb with all the skills they need, like
Mhm.
and even animals don't. I mean, lions teach their cubs to hunt and that sort of thing,
Mhm.
cats do.
Yeah.
But parents don't come out of the gate having all the parenting skills they'd like to have. They've seen it
Right.
from
Because
one
they
side,
weren't
they haven't
raised.
done it.
Yeah.
And even if they were raised, they still haven't done it from in a leadership position. I think the guiding principle is if the kids are triggering something in you, that's you, not them.
Yep.
And so if you want to teach your kids to do better than you, then if you're getting all out of joint, if you're out of control, if your kids are doing something, if you are witnessing a kid doing something and it is causing you to get out of control, that's on you, baby. You need to
Mhm.
that means you don't know what to do.
Right.
The helpless. You're coming from helplessness, not
Yeah.
from, oh, I've seen this in 16 kids, and so I'll do this. And it's not always peaceful. Sometimes you got to grab them and say,
Yes.
hey, quit throwing bricks at the poor, at the poor little kid that can't defend himself.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to get physical, but
Well, and most parents, this is something that let's talk about vulnerability. One of my biggest fears in starting this coaching venture, this creating relational parenting and teaching other people, is that my biggest fear is that people would look at me and go, well, you're not a parent, so what are you doing? And I had to do I had a lot of conversations with myself, and I talked, to friends and whatnot, who were like, well, no, you're not a parent yet, but you've been raising
yeah,
children for 20 years.
surrogate parent, maybe
You've
step
been
parent. You're as much a parent as you've been raising kids.
Well, and there's like, I am not naive in knowing that when I have my own children, it will feel different. It will be more triggering, and there will
Yeah,
be things that I come up against that I'm like,
different buttons to push.
yeah, all the buttons.
There's
But
all kinds of buttons.
I have raised hundreds, or I have helped raise hundreds
There you
of
go.
children, and not just mine in my tiny little bubble of a world. I
Hmm.
have helped raise children who are 16 and Black and from
Different than you.
their
Yeah,
Crips, their Bloods, they're coming from life cycles that I cannot comprehend. I
yeah,
have helped raise children who are infants and are being raised by well-paid doctors in
yeah,
Denver suburbia. I
yeah.
have helped raise middle-class children in a preschool. I have helped raise Indian children, Asian children, Black children, white children. I have helped raise, and I mean Indian as in India. I'm not replacing Native American. I just want to make that very clear.
Mhm.
Like I have Hispanic children, and I have been in those communities, and I've done it in churches, I've done it in preschools, I've done it in juvenile detention facilities, like, and I sound very confident when I'm talking about it now, but that took months
Yeah.
and months of
Yeah.
mindset, if not years of
Experience.
mindset,
Yeah.
and going back and looking through my resumes and being like, no, I've fucking done this shit.
Yeah.
I have
Yeah.
run, I have been in charge of, I have corralled 16 2-year-olds on my own. I remember, we have to wrap this up, and I have
Has it been that long?
one more thing.
Wow. Okay.
But when I first moved to Colorado, I interviewed for the national. I'm trying to remember. It's a federal facility here in Denver, and it's they house the National 911, one of 4 national government 911 facilities. So it's the
Wow.
911 that the government calls, not people. Like, you can't call this 911
Oh,
facility.
I have a flood. I have a
This is
tornado.
government emergency 911. And
Um,
so it's like a big deal. You've got to be able to handle stress, handle
yeah. Yeah.
impending doom, and
Changing
remain
things and yeah.
calm, cool, collected, etc. Now, I didn't get that job strictly because of my student loans, because I had so many federal student loans that they couldn't hire me because there was a conflict of interest, that I could, if I got access to federal computer systems, that I could somehow do something
Really?
with my student
They're
loans.
not segregated. Wow. You'd think the
I mean,
financial stuff would be locked up
a
different.
background checks. Like, they went and visited neighbors from my childhood type
Oh,
shit.
that's a
So
security
it's
clearance.
federal. Yeah. This like, oh yeah, it was a full blown security clearance. So, but anyway,
Okay.
I interviewed with 3 very intimidating suits, all men,
Sure.
alone, at a steel table in a white walled conference room.
Dead serious.
And
We're not
then
interested in jokes. Yeah.
and when I drove into the federal facility, I mean, it was metal detectors under my car. It was open your trunk, show me your ID. Like, what are you here for?
I had forgotten that if I knew. Wow.
And I was like 24. I was terrified.
Sure.
But
That's the
excited.
purpose of all that. Yeah.
So I get there, I get to the interview, I'm sitting in the interview, they're grilling me about, like, how are you under pressure? Like, what are some, whatever, typical interview, 3 men,
Describe a
24,
time when you were under pressure and how did you handle it?
yeah, 24-year-old girl, just like in my little suit, just being like, I'm actually very calm, cool, and collected under pressure. So, which is why I was sitting there. So,
Yeah.
the one guy was, he was the ex-director of the FBI, as in national headquarters
Holy
director of the FBI,
Wow.
looked me dead in the eye and said what you just said. He was like, tell me a time. What was it? Oh, I was
That's a
telling them
standard
about being a
interview.
preschool teacher, because that was my most recent job before I moved to Denver. I was like, I was a preschool teacher for 3 years. And he looked me dead in the eye and said, how would that translate to
Exactly.
staying calm on a 911 call?
Yeah.
And I looked him dead in the eye and asked, have you ever been in a room with 16 2-year-olds?
2-year-olds.
And he just went, okay.
He got a picture in his head. You got to put that picture in their head. Yeah.
I didn't answer. I just replied with another question. And that is a moment that will live in infamy in my mind forever.
Yeah, that's
because
exactly it.
It was like, okay, I know that I have a strength and a gift here that a lot of people do not have, for working with children, for patience, for getting into the head of a child and what their needs are, and staying calm, cool, and collected, and whatever. But
getting done what needs to get done, as opposed to melting down and collapsing into your own history,
But the whole point of God, the whole point of saying all of these things, was to reveal my own insecurity. I have 20 years. I have
Yeah.
2 decades
Yeah.
of raising children. And I was still terrified to put myself out there and claim my expertise
Yeah.
because I haven't born my own children yet.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
know it's different.
Well, it's a challenge. It's good you're addressing it.
I have no blinders about all of the shit that I don't know yet that I'm going to learn from having my own kids.
It's going to be
But
another level because of the emotional involvement. Yeah.
what I do have is I have a breadth of experiences in so many different situations, in so many different cultures, in so
Mhm.
many different places in the world that I can help you navigate just about anything.
Yeah.
Because it all comes down to this foundation of emotional and mental wellness. Everything
Yeah.
builds off of that. Every part of your life builds off of that. And so if we
Yeah.
have this foundation, all of those situations get taken care of. And so I no longer, for the most part, it still creeps in every once in a while, that little voice
Sure.
of like, well, you're not a parent yet. What are you doing?
Mhm.
But very rarely. And I'm like, I know more and I've done more and have experienced more than pretty much any other parent on the planet who is currently a parent, because you raise a child for 18 years and then you have adult children, right?
It's
People who are
experience.
currently, yeah, people
Because
who
with
are
experience with
currently
3 isn't as
people who are currently parenting, like I have been parenting longer than most parents parent, if that
like
makes
the
sense,
10,000 hours rule. You have more hours of parenting kids than a lot of parents.
than most parents ever have. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so sitting on that, and I forget which friend gave me that because I did not think of that myself. Somebody said that to me, reflected that back to me, and was like,
Mhm.
"You've been raising kids for 20 years. Most parents raise kids for 18." And I was
Yeah.
like, and I've been raising all different kinds of
You've
children,
seen more kids
hundreds of
in
personalities,
more yeah.
hundreds of situations, cultures, like,
Back to my bell curve thing.
yeah.
You've got a broader experience. Yeah.
So that was, I think, the point of that was to share a vulnerability, not to brag on myself, which I kind of feel like that's what that turned into. But anyway,
Well, it's establishing authority, establishing leadership
that's what we were talking about.
status. Yeah. Yeah. You
You
know,
can't do something you haven't
that's
done
right.
and then I'm
That's
like,
right.
"Oh, I'm not a parent," but I have in fact parented and raised, and yeah.
Well, and a thought I had while you were reviewing that, I hadn't heard the story about the interview with the guy. That very proud of that, by the
Really?
way.
I feel like I would have you would have been
You
the first
probably
one I
did.
told that
You
to.
probably did, but I don't always retain everything.
Yeah.
Good ideas are good ideas, especially younger parent. The less parenting you've done, the newer you are to parenting, the more you're likely to run into a real good idea here. And even if you've been parenting a long time, you're still likely to run into a good idea here.
Yeah, well, and there's always new information, and as, like, a
Yeah,
coach today in 10 years, I will like, it'll be similar foundationally, but there will be more information, there will be new things to add to the tool belt for me to teach people,
that's the
like,
value add here. Yep.
yeah, and also part of, like, that so the story I just told of my own, like, overcoming knowing myself, like, we talked about ego, and just because you're the parent doesn't mean you know everything or that you're always right. But there is also value. I always tell parents that part of my coaching practice is reminding parents of their confidence, reminding them of their capabilities, reminding them or uncovering with them what they are good at, what their gifts are, and to stand
Sure.
in their power, to stand in their confidence, and to parent confidently, not
Yep.
meek, not meek and passive, and but not aggressive and authoritarian, but this assertive parenting where we are a team. I'm a confident leader and we're in this together.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
knowing what you are capable of will give you the ability to self-sovereign, even more, even better, even longer. So that, and then the last thing you had mentioned, something that we will have to literally turn into another podcast episode, which is birth order. This is something, birth order has fascinated me since I have memories, since I was like 5. I have
Mhm.
always watched, I'm the middle and the only girl. And then
Mhm.
I have an older brother and a younger brother.
Oh, yeah. All
And
kinds of combinations, yeah.
the birth order and the way, it's not even like necessarily our personalities, but it's more like our coping skills, the way our coping skills and the way we think about the world and people has always fascinated me, because I'm like, we grew up in the same household. How
Perception,
are we
cognition, yeah.
so different? And one of the most profound statements I've ever heard is that siblings often will say, or someone said this to, I can't remember if it was a video I was watching, where a sibling said this to another sibling, but it says, we grew up in the same household, but we had very different parents.
Childhoods are different parents,
So like
absolutely.
you and mom were who you were and knew what you knew when Josh was born. And then a
Yeah.
couple years later, you knew more and you had more skills and you had more self-awareness, etc.
Mhm.
And then I
Mhm.
came along. So I got a different version of my parents than Josh did.
Yes, you
And
did.
and then a couple years later,
Yeah,
Nathan came along, and Nathan
yeah,
had a different version of you guys than I did. And
yeah.
in my husband's family, he kind of jokes, but all the time, that the first 2 boys are very different than the second 2 boys. And the
Interesting.
first 2 boys, there were a lot of parenting skills that stop parent well, not skills, parenting methods, devices that were used on the first 2 boys that the second 2 boys never experienced, because they were like, "Oh, maybe we shouldn't do those things anymore."
And so that's the whole
um
idea is what wouldn't it be great? That's why I like the idea of your parent coaching is what if you could pick up on those things earlier? Not that
well, and I
not that
don't
we're gonna
think
fix the world, but having
there's
access to that
also
information
like
is
the
good.
first, each child will have a different personality and different needs. So
Yeah.
you will be a different parent for each of your children no matter
Yep.
what.
Yep.
There's no
There's an
stopping that. There's no
intrinsicness. Yeah.
stopping the learning that will occur from the first child, between the first and
Absolutely.
second child, between the second and third child, and so on and so forth. You will learn, you will be a different parent to different children, because that is your job, is to meet the needs of different personalities, communication styles, and love languages, and
Yep.
to personalize your relationship with each of your children,
Yep.
just like you would a spouse or a friend or whatever. Like, relationships are different.
Yep.
And the statement, I love my children equally, but differently.
Yep.
You don't love your children or love the same things about each of your children. They are each unique individual beings. And
Yep.
so you don't love one of them more than another, but you love them in different ways and for different reasons.
Mhm.
And so anyway, that, I think, that came up for me, and that is something I really want to touch on, because there's also sibling rivalry is something that is so prevalent,
Oh, yeah. Formative.
so prevalent. And it is 99%. Okay, I don't have a real statistic. I'm going to take that back. In my
In
experience,
my experience. There you go.
it is almost always caused by parents. And they don't know they're doing it. You don't know you're doing it. The way that parents treat the birth order, they treat first children differently than last children and everything in between.
Expectations are
And
higher
the
with first children.
expectation, the way that punishment is doled out, the way that parents take sides in child related disagreements,
The
all
teamwork.
like
Yep.
all of these things swirl into resentment of children towards their sibling or whatever. And it is a whole episode
Yep.
of information that I want to talk about.
We can
So
pick that apart. Rivalry will be there, Lord of the Flies, but the way a parent negotiates that through that with the kids
conflict will be there. Rivalry
can
is absolutely unnecessary.
can have a lot to do with the way the
Competition,
kids deal with that
there
competition.
doesn't
Yeah.
need to be there, like, competition is created if by the way that parents handle conflict. Conflict is normal. Conflict with me and my husband is normal. Conflict with inside any relationship is normal. Competition is not.
Oh,
Competition is
okay. We'll have to pick
created.
that apart. We'll have to put,
Anyway, we should wrap up. Do you have any final thoughts on anything?
no, I think that was kind of it. Gosh, this is fun to do, and I hope I hope I hope this is helping somebody. I'm still interested. Let's get waiting to hear more feedback, and yeah, this is really good. I think this is the right time for us to be doing this. This is a good thing.
So we have birth order that we'll talk about on an episode, and that'll be focused on how to not have sibling rivalry in the home. And I do have an email from a parent that I want to talk about as a podcast episode. We're going to read the email. I have her permission, and
Cool.
discuss what she wrote in about. And then, which, by the way, guys, like, send us your stories. We want to hear from you. I want to know what you want to hear about. I'm just picking topics off the top of my head, based on
Common stuff that we've run into.
what I'm
yeah.
interested in, what I think what I'm seeing a lack of knowledge around in parenting communities, etc. But like, if there's something specific that you have, I don't care how specific it is or how broad it is. Like, if you have a question or there's something specific that you're working on in your home or wondering about, or
A guest you'd like to see, a topic.
yeah, like, or a funny, like, I want to do like silly parenting stories too, like funny stories or anything. Yeah. So anyway, send us your stories, send us your questions. The email is in the show notes, jenny@jennyb.co. So we'll do a birth order episode. We will do the parent write-in email episode topic, and we're going to have a dad on here, but he's not able to get on until September 1st. But I'm really excited for that episode, and I want to get men on here too. The spaces that are filled with parenting and child service people. I mean, a lot of women, because there's like birth doulas, and momming is such a huge transition, but like being a dad is a transition. And there are men who are the primary caretakers, and there are wounds that are more common to men and dads than to women. There's a lot of stuff that women go through that men don't go through, but there are things that men go through that women don't go through. And just like you were talking about with the business and stuff, like, there are men who are on the lookout for weakness in other men to alpha dog you.
How
right?
you get away. Yeah, that's how you get
And
ahead.
that, like, there's some of that in between women, but it's definitely more aggressive and more common between men.
Yeah.
So that's what's coming up. What's also coming up is my honeymoon. So this episode, and then next week's episode with Malia, she decided to become a homeschooler because school systems were not serving, and getting through to her kids the way they needed to. And so she became a homeschooler, and she has started a homeschool community where she teaches parents how to homeschool, and also like how to do it for your kids with different needs.
Yeah.
And she's just like a bright, bubbly ball of fun. And so that's next week. And then I will be on my honeymoon for 2 weeks, finally, 8 months later. And we're not going to record or anything. So we will just have a little vacation, a little 2-week hiatus, and then we will be back in mid-June
Cool.
probably with our birth order episode, or a parent
Cool.
email episode, actually. So anywho, Patreon is open, you guys, $5, $7, and $11. If you want to make a one-time donation, amazing. If you want to commit to a monthly donation, that would be amazing. Podcasting does cost money. And
Please
we
click
want,
and like and subscribe
we
and all
want
that kind of stuff.
to be able, I mean, the free things you can do are subscribe, like each episode, and leave us a 5-star review. That helps us get seen by other people who want this information. It helps us grow. It helps the platforms keep pushing us to the top of the chart so that people can find us.
The algorithms.
And then there is an option to contribute to our Patreon and keep some seed money so that we can, at least break even making this thing. And yeah, Dad is on his venture for sponsors, and
Poking
we're
around
just going to keep
sponsors.
going.
Downloads
We're
help too.
booked.
The metrics, don't they? We're learning about
Yep.
the podcasting world.
So super simple. Click a couple buttons to support us. All of it is free, and if you are able and want to, you can donate to the Patreon. And we are going to start having. We already have one mini episode, but we'll start cutting other mini episodes. So people who do donate to Patreon, you guys will start getting benefits that other people, and seeing episodes and conversations and things that other people don't get to see. We'll do, depending on, when we get enough people in there, we'll start doing extra content, etc.
Need a bloopers reel when we flub.
Yeah, we'll have bloopers reels. We'll have extra mini episodes. Maybe we'll go live. We'll start going live once a month or something for members.
We could be doing this live. This could be live.
I know.
If we had a little more expertise. So I'll work on that too.
What do you mean? All I have to do is click live.
Oh, really? And it goes out, so we can just start advertising when we tape.
Yeah, but I'm going to make that a Patreon benefit.
Yeah. But we still need to know in advance and let people know in advance.
Oh yeah, schedule when we go live.
So otherwise, there's no benefit to the live.
Yes.
You get to see the bloopers in real time. Right.
So I leave most stuff in. I don't really no, there's some bloopers. Yeah. I don't cut too much.
Look at the cutting room floor. Yeah.
Sometimes if there's like a long pause, I cut those because it's like I'm like writing something and it's like 10 seconds feels like an eternity when you're like in conversation.
Yeah.
Like no one wants to just listen to like radio silence.
Dead air. Yeah. No dead air. Yeah.
That's mostly what I cut. But yeah. So cool. That's what we're doing. That's what we're up to. Email us.
We'll see you next time. We'll say it next time.
Yep. All right. Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Well, did you learn anything new? Or have you heard all of this before? Do you agree with us? Disagree with us? Have a question? We want to see you in our inbox or via the Patreon page in the show notes. Tap on either link to send us your feedback, share your own parenting story, or support our mission of providing a connected community for all parents. And don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. If you loved this episode, click on that little star and give us 5 of them so we can get visible to other parents who are looking for us. This is your weekly reminder. Parents, you already have everything you need inside of you. You are a strong, loving, capable parent. And here, you are never alone. I'll see you next week.